So, Kyle. All right. Thanks, artist. My name is Kyle. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Kyle.
It's a pleasure to do anything in Alcoholics Anonymous for this place that's given me the life that I was thinking back. You know, my sobriety date is August 22nd, 2022. I was sponsored. A home group came to live. My home group would meet at Hope Community Church in Charlotte, off of Ray Road. We meet Mondays and Fridays at 8 p.m. You know, I was born and raised in Charlotte. Grew up with two loving parents. My parents loved me so much that they got divorced right after they had me. By the way, does anybody have anything weighing on their hearts that they need to come up? Yeah, born and raised in Charlotte. Was good at sports growing up, and I thought that was kind of like my ticket, you know, my way to control things in life, and you know, because I really didn't think I was good enough. That was the lie I kept telling myself. Always comparing myself to other people, and you know, just started having that thinking from the very beginning. I remember. When my parents got divorced when I was 2, it was a really big, nasty divorce, and I heard that all growing up. My mom is from El Salvador, I have dual citizenship. I grew up speaking Spanish, and you know, my dad's family, I don't think this is why I'm an alcoholic, but my dad's family has a history of being in these rooms, and I don't know if they stayed, but that's not my business. You know, I can only control my side of the street. But he, you know, my dad, I think, struggled with this, and he got sober when I was 10. I came back from El Salvador one time, and he said, "Oh, my grandmother said, aren't you happy your dad's getting sober?" And I drank it. I didn't even notice, you know, he had a drinking habit. I knew he would drink, but I didn't think anything of it. So I got kind of introduced to AA a little bit when I was young. Went to a couple meetings growing up, and I've tried to look for my dad's sponsor, but I know that's not how we do it. He's not alive anymore, but I remember him. I'm going to go all over the place, guys. I'm sorry, but when I was younger, my dad took me to this. I went to Catholic schools growing up. But my first grade teacher noticed that I had like a processing issue with forming sentences. My brain was slow or something, and so I had to go to this other school for a class or two. Usually when the kids were in Spanish, so they would take me out. Those are speaking Spanish at home, and I think it was just, you know, going through the steps and realizing like a lot of the back and forth took a real big toll on me growing up. But you know, I just, you know, you get back up and you keep moving when you're young, and I knew that was kind of a survival technique that I used growing up, and you know, not talk about it. So I went to school for a little bit and worked on, well, like I said, forming sentences and just simple sentences like I am running, and so it's you know, I really don't like sharing. It's hard for me, and I think it's hard for just anybody just to open up and be vulnerable and open up. And, who likes to do that? So alcohol, I found alcohol, and it just helped me communicate, helped me talk, helped me be courageous, helped me be bolder. You know, I had beer goggles for myself. I would look in the mirror and just like think, wow, I'm a good-looking person. You know, who knows that? But you know, everything was on the outside. Never looked inside, and yeah, things in my teenage years started getting more tense. I played tennis growing up. really intensely. I started because I loved the sport, but then I got into it and was traveling national tournaments, national ranking, and really wanted to get a college scholarship. I wanted to play Wimbledon, of course, and my dad, as a result, was coaching me. I mean, he wanted. I can see this looking at it, but he wanted me to. He tried to give me things that he didn't. And I've worked on that, but a lot of times, I'm an only child too, and a lot of times we were just so enmeshed, and I looked for his approval all the time. And if I didn't get it, I felt like, on the fourth step it says, what does it affect? I'm like, this resentment towards my dad affects everything. This fear towards my dad affects everything. If he says one thing, I zone out. I disassociate. I zone out. And alcohol was a way for me to just put a Band-Aid over that. And it was a really good Band-Aid for a long time. I'm playing tournaments, and there's some stuff that like some physical abuse and some trauma going around there. But I didn't help with that either. I looking back at it, here's a dad that tried to get his son everything, and I can really thank him for that. And so my dad's a big part of my story, but I try to keep this on my side and be responsible for my actions as best as I can. I go back and forth between El Salvador and here, so I kind of had this internal conflict, like where when I was in El Salvador, I was the green belt, or I was white, so I was the whitest person in my family. I mean, in that country. So, I thought the way the Latin culture, I don't want to say the Latin culture, the Salvadoran culture, is they make fun of you a little bit, but they do it out of love. And so when I was younger, I was so sensitive, and I just, I'm going to put all my eggs into tennis, and that's where I can control things. That was my happy place. That was my first drug. I felt like it was, for me, drinking was obviously a big part of my story. If it wouldn't have, I wouldn't be here. But winning tennis is a higher drug for me. It is, and I have alcoholic thinking. Everything I do, I want more. So I got a college scholarship.
Nice.
I had my first drink. Let's go there. I had my first drink. I was with my dad. He took me back to his alma mater. He was sober. He took me back to his Hampton Sydney College, all men's college, and I just thought, I don't want to go here. I was 16, and he was distracted with some of his old fraternity brothers, and some guy has a couple cases of beer from his car, and I was like, do you need any help? And I was honestly asking him for help, or offering my help, and so he says, he opens one up, he's like, do you want one? I go, yeah, sure. I've seen people drink. I've said no because I don't want anything to get in the way of my tennis. I don't want anything to get in the way of my tennis, and drinking is going to get in the way of my tennis. I've heard about it in my dad's family, and so I had that drink, and when we go into his dorm room, I see a couple girls come out with not much to wear, and I think I'm away from my dad. That's freedom. I feel independent. I'm at college, and there's girls right in front of me. I can talk to girls, and I'm 60. This is great. And so later that night, my dad asked me, the guy hands me another beer, and he's like, yeah, drink it. That's fine. So I think drinking is acceptable in front of my dad. Not much. I felt like I couldn't open up if I would talk. It was if I would say stuff, we just didn't. I mean, I know he loved me. It was just a tense relationship. Walking on eggshells is like, and then there's that relationship. And so he asked me, "Is that your first beer?" And I said, "No, I had one earlier." And so I wasn't drinking anymore after that. I just had the two, but I remember the feeling of being free. That's what I associate alcohol does to me. Feel free. I feel independent. And so fast forward, I go to college, and man, I can really escape from the whole divorce. And my mom, I love my mom, and you know, and my grandmother and my mom's side, but speaking so badly about my dad growing up doesn't help. That's I grew up in that sickness, and I could say I was affected, but I took over that responsibility, and I could see my dad in a different light when I would go to my mom's. Then I would see my dad differently because of just kind of the alienation. And I, where was that artist? I go to college, and I can use drinking as an escape and fraternity parties. And I was on the tennis team. I went to DePaul University in Chicago. It was far away from Charlotte. I could get away, and I was playing really well. And consequences started. I remember going out, and the next morning, I'm playing the number one guy, and I lose 6-love. What the hell? Like, what the heck? And that's the worst story that happened to me. And I'm like, I better stop, and then I black out. I fall down the stairs at school and chipped my tooth. I don't remember. I was in blackout, and I woke up the next morning, and the next week some guy says, "Oh, were you that guy who cross parties chipped your tooth?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." So I call my dad, and he's like, and I go home after and for break, and he's like, "What happened to your tooth?" And he's like, "Man, you don't have a drink, bro. You got a walking problem." I was like, "Very true." But we started drinking again together. My dad started drinking, and he started drinking with me. And, I didn't think anything of it. I thought, this is great. Because I remember that one time, and at his alma mater, he asked me, "No, you can have a beer in front of me." I said, "Great, okay. You can always drink in front of me." And so we could relate to each other. And conversations actually started loosening up. But the more you loosen up, the more you start, I start kind of, I would loosen up, but there was always this voice in my head still saying, "I hated that man." It fueled that. I didn't really recognize it at first or listen to it, but I was afraid of him, and I was resentful at the same time. I know those go hand in hand, but it helped me loosen up, but it also fueled me something. And so I go back to school. For my sophomore year, and my depression starts kicking up, and I feel very alone and more self-pity, and I think I'm just not drinking right, so I'm into this girl, and she's not as into me as I would like her to be, and I find that out, and I wasn't a very honest person either. I would, as a people pleaser, I would manipulate to get my way, and all that self-centeredness. I didn't know how to have a relationship. I thought, I would say sorry first before any conflict started, because I just didn't want any conflict. I was so afraid of conflict. I recognized that this relationship wasn't going the way I wanted it, and not knowing Chicago's the size of an Atlantic Ocean, there's a fit for me somewhere. But this one girl, and I was obsessed over, and I go out one night and wake up in the hospital with a 0.36, and by the time my friends got me there, it was way higher or before, and so that really scared me. That really like I was out of control that night, and the nurses thought I was dead, and I couldn't. I was suspended for a week. I didn't go on spring break, and I came home, and my dad got his big book out. I said, I'm not like you. And that was the first time I remember AA, and I remember about. So I don't remember. I honestly don't remember which part we were reading, but I wasn't interested in it. I wasn't ready, and he told me, why don't you tell them so you can stay in school, you're going to go to AA. And I said, no, that's that. I'm not going to AA. I go to counseling, and they said, we're going to monitor you. And I didn't have another episode like that. So I was able to control my drinking. But when I controlled it, I wasn't enjoying it. When I was enjoying it, I wasn't controlling it.
Yeah.
I mean I was really drinking at this resentment. But I've already said that about my dad. But instead of looking in the mirror at myself, it was like for self-pity, I think for me is as Joe McHugh says in the steps we took, is where my place is in life. And I was really resentful, really at me. I thought it was at my dad, but really where I was in my life. And I thought, well, I'm not gonna just the way things were, where I was playing in the lineup. I mean, little things where if my parents didn't get divorced, but at such a young age, I didn't have this hold. And I look at other people and think, why do they have their lives all taken care of? Which they don't, but that's none of my business. As it says in the first step. And so after college, I decided to go play professionally tennis, and I went to places like Peru, Zimbabwe, played Davis Cup for El Salvador, and I played Peru, and I got to play on TV. And my grandfather in El Salvador was very, very sick, and he got to watch me from the TV, and that was a special moment. But I came back from that match and thought, I let a whole country down because I lost that one match. I let the whole country down, and I was really in self-pity again, and not grateful at all that I got to play. So many people who are trying to play professionally in tennis, they would wish they would play Davis Cup. And I played the Pan American Games as well, down in Peru, went to Egypt, and I did that for a while. And but one I didn't know I was going to say this, but actually I did. I did know I was going to say this. One night when I was playing a tournament down in Naples, and my grandfather is living down there, I got so upset with my dad and all this rage I kept inside of me. Instead of talking about it, or instead of getting help at first. If I would have gone to AA when I was 20, when I had that night, a lot of this stuff I think would have fast forward, but I wasn't ready, so I had to be ready. But I thought he was going to get in my face, and so I gave him a black eye and a concussion and with my fist, and he called the cops, and I got arrested, and I spent the night in a Naples jail. And I prayed honestly with what I knew of God, or of God. I just really wanted a healthy relationship with my dad. And I was, again, so resentful of him that he decided to call the cops on me. There's so many times when I could have done that to you, but it's just the way it is. I gotta let it go and forgive him. And so that I got help. I went to other 12-step programs, and I didn't think alcohol was the problem. Another counselor asked me, well, how much are you drinking? I was like, 4 beers a night. I mean, yeah, it's 4 or something. And we lose track. I would run the bar just to, when I would drink, I was just so lonely. I didn't like that depression, and I tried to stop drinking by myself, and my dad got me a big book. But here, and doesn't mean you're an alcoholic, that's up for you, but it's good. So I started doing it, and I got to the part of, is remember that we deal with alcohol, running bath and alcohol. I can't forget that part, that I deal with alcohol. I'm different than other people. I deal with alcohol. I deal with alcohol, coming back and powerful, and I put in March 9th, 2014, 0.38, 36, and it almost took my life. And it hit me that I almost, but I'm not an alcoholic. It is that I'm not an alcoholic. And I still have aspirations to play professionally, and a couple years ago, I moved into an apartment by myself, and I would say I am a mama's boy, and I was financially dependent on my mom, and so I moved out, and I don't know how to live. I don't know how to live, and so every night I'm drinking by myself, and it's getting worse and worse. And I'm not feeling that freedom that I did when I first had that drink, and I'm not feeling that escape part. It's actually right in front of me, and I did other stuff, but one other drug, but I did, it was right in front of me, and I still couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I was still trying to deal with those emotions myself, and I knew from other 12-step programs, I can't do this by myself. I need outside help or of another person, another man, or a group to be part of, and I was just on my couch drinking myself, and I thought, I'm going to drink myself to death like that one night, and so I was still on the Davis team, and I thought, what am I going to do if I don't have tennis? And that really let me in. If I'm going to lose tennis, I'm going to drink because I'm drinking. And I thought, I didn't become sober for my professional tennis. This is my last go at it. In Davis Cup, I have to get sober. So 10 days before my last Davis Cup, I got sober. And I thought, well, I'm ready to light up the world 10 days sober. And that's not the way it works. You go through something called detox, and I was so tired, and I want to go back a little bit, but in part of drinking, I was drinking one night by myself at a brewery in South End, and I was looking at everybody, and I thought, how are you having so much fun? I'm not having any alcohol. This is a disease, and it took me, I really like being around people, and I'm an extrovert, but it turned me into an introvert, and I was going on Facebook or Instagram, and I saw my doubles partner from high school, and he was bad, and but he showed his coin, his from another fellowship that he was sober and clean, and he was happy and had 2 kids and his wife, and I thought, I want that. That's what I want. So I knew from other folks that if I want what you guys have, I have to do what you do. And so I picked up a white chip, go to Davis Cup, and I'm not listening to my sponsors, I'm not totally sold, but I know I have to stop drinking, and I'm feeling all this fatigue, and the doctor comes into my room and says, starts talking, and takes my temperature like a doctor does, and I say, I'm done lying. I think I'm an alcoholic. I've been drinking this and that, and she takes off her thing. She goes, yeah, I know you guys. Yeah, I know you. My dad was an alcoholic, and he died when he was in his 40s, and I grew up without a dad. And she was not an alcoholic, but she was affected by this disease. And I started talking to her, and I'm like, it was kind of like I was on the bed, and who visited Philadelphia in the hospital? Anyways, and he had that experience. I didn't do the steps on that bed, but we got on our knees and we prayed, and she said, "You're gonna be okay." Okay, I'll be okay. And then I have a trip going down to Miami, say, with a drinking friend right after that. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I get there and I'm knocking through, just white knuckling, and my sponsor said, go to a meeting, go to a meeting, okay, well, I don't know, all these excuses not to go to a meeting. I had met Farai already, and he's like, yeah, just go to a meeting. So I'm at the bar, and I right here, I'm about to drink it, and I'm tasting it, and I'm like, I'm going to drink again. I know, but I know if I drink again, I'm going to die. I just had this feeling. And so I went to the bathroom, got on my knees, and said, please God, remove this obsession to drink. And it was a desperate prayer. Remove this obsession to drink, because I just want to be okay. I didn't feel like I was okay in my life. And I said, it's for me prayer. Because I learned that from a meeting when I watched it. And I walked out of that bathroom, and it was just, I hadn't had a spiritual awakening, but I had something, the light went off. Like, I felt something. Okay, I'll be okay not drinking today. Just today. And I can take it 15 minutes at a time, whatever. But I'm going to be okay. And I got on my knees that night. I said, thank you, God, for helping me stay sober. And in the morning, I asked him, please help me stay sober today. And I came back from that trip ready to do it. And I would go to these meetings. And I really wasn't listening to my sponsor too much, and so I got another sponsor, I got another sponsor, and when I met him, he said, here's my number, call me. And he was surprised I called him, because not many newcomers call, and so I called him, and it was, there's no point in doing this if you don't take care of alcohol. Because I still wouldn't surrender something. I knew I couldn't drink anymore, but I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just going to come to these meetings. I'm not an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But I'll do everything. That's still myself up. I'm still self-over night and running the show. And he said his story. He said he was a top 20 golfer in the nation in the 12s. He came from New Jersey. He came down to North Carolina to Pinehurst to play, and he came back, and his dad gave him a couple black eyes to go to school. Roman Catholic. So I also knew my dad one guy. But and I thought, and then he said, he 12-stepped me. He said, I had to learn how to forgive my father. And I'd done the Catholic route, and I went to confession, because whatever your dad did to you, you have to learn how to forgive him. But you don't understand how much, you don't understand. And I didn't understand, because I was the sick man, and I'm still sick. If I don't go to these meetings, if I don't work these steps, if I don't work with somebody else. I said, okay, that's my story. I want to learn. That's all I want to do. Learn how to forgive my father, and really be grateful. The gratitude for how much he's given in my life. I wouldn't be the tennis player. Besides tennis, that's a material thing I see now. But my competition comes from him. My faith. He took me to church when I was younger, and I can really thank him for that. So I really, step one, I really didn't want to admit I was an alcoholic, but I said, okay, if I'm going to forgive my dad, I'm going to have to do this. So, I'm going to have to quit this. I'm going to have to work on this. And I said, I gotta surrender. Just stop thinking. And that's very hard to tell an alcoholic, to tell me that. Just stop thinking about it. than I think about it more. But really that was my problem, and because I wanted my life to be better without alcohol. It's like, oh, that's step one. It's like, okay. And I admitted my life was unmanageable, great, and step two, I feel like I can draw from that bathroom experience in Miami. Getting on my knees and really asking him, I had the gift of desperation. Please help me stay sober today. I walked out of the bathroom feeling like I can function just the way I am, just the way Kyle is. And on the chip, that my sponsor gave me, he loved me enough to give it to me. He said, "To thy own self be true." And that's what I want. I don't want to be crowded with my mom said this about my dad. My dad is angry at me about this, and am I Salvadoran? Am I American? Am I good at tennis? Am I not good enough? No, it's how God sees me, and really getting a deeper relationship with God. And I go to step three. My sponsor gave me a God box. Put anything that you are obsessed over that you cannot control. And so that was probably full by after a couple days after he gave it to me. But he took me through the Little Red Book. It's a book I think that was written right after the 12-12 or before the 12-12. But it was by Dr. Bob and the first 100 men and women in Alcoholics Anonymous, specifically for newcomers. And I felt like that book gave me a foundation for my sobriety. It aids in living in contented sobriety. It says that so many times. My alcoholism cannot be cured. It can only be arrested for today. I felt like that book. We meet every Monday at 10 a.m. at Caribou Coffee off of Fairview Road. And he wears suits when he speaks. So if I want what he has, I have to do what he does. And for the men who came before me and women, it's step four. Actually, step three. I realized that God can run. I didn't realize. I kind of just went through it. I just trusted. I just said, okay, God will run my life. But if I'm back in self-will, which I get repeatedly because of my thinking, just because of the way I am, I know I need to make an amends, or I need to forgive somebody, or I need to go help somebody. And I read Chuck C. this past a new pair of glasses, and my main problem in life is my ego. I'm separated from God. I have a living problem, and I need a living solution. And that's to get rid of ego. And these steps help me see where I was wrong. In step four, I put all my resentments. I went through the first day with my sponsor. In step five, my resentments. He goes, okay, should we go 3 years ago? No, I have more. So I put down all, and so I'm writing at the Whole Foods in South Park, in Charlotte, and I realized I may not have had anything to do with this, but I got drunk over it, and where I was wrong on a lot of stuff, but I got drunk over it. So for however many resentments I had, for however many fears I had, for however many sexual contacts I had, which really not many. Let's be honest. And I got drunk over it, and that really solidified for me that I was an alcoholic. That alcohol wasn't my problem; it was my solution. And I need a better solution with it, and that's God for me, right? My higher power. And God speaks to me through you guys whenever I see chips being handed out, this thing works. Even sharing at meetings when I want to drink. Is there anybody who's having trouble staying away from the drink? Well, I'm almost 2 years. I should be, or I should be fine. No, I admit I want to drink, and that gives the power away from me. And this and that, and this problem, and it's really not a problem because I'm looking at it through the lens of an alcoholic. Step 5 for me, my sponsor went through it, and it boiled down to a couple things. I was afraid of responsibility, taking care of my side of the street. Well, that's a big part. Self-pity is a big part of my story and why I drank. And it fueled more fear of conflict, fear of abandonment. I'm deathly afraid of someone leaving me. So I don't know how to be in a relationship. I can't tell you how to be in a relationship. I have not been in a relationship in sobriety. But I know, like, if you're not paying attention to me because I'm an only child, then I start like, and it's not fair to the person. I can't put that person in that situation right now. I'm not well for that. Steps 8 and 9 made a list of all persons I had harmed. My sponsor told me that I get that from my step 4. And I really didn't see that correlation because I was still in my, I still wanted to blame everybody for what position I was in my life. And it was really time to take responsibility. And so I listed people, and I also listed myself. But I got to make amends to my tennis coach up at DePaul. They came down for conferences in South Carolina, and we won it this year. And I got to see them, and we had a good relationship. But I got to make amends to him, and I told him, I'm sorry for all the crap I put you through, and I was wrong to go out that night and get wasted, and for the verbal abuse too, and not trusting you, just not being a better teammate. I also did a tradition study last fall, and that was really teaching me that I am not another step 4 and 5. I'm not the center of the universe. To be part of a group, just worker among workers, and put my head down and start working, and let somebody, if they want to talk, they can talk during a group conscience or in a group, and to be fully self-supporting, and that we're all, if you want to be here, I get to belong here, and everybody gets to belong. Where else is a place that we clap for you if you're having a bad day, or laugh, or it's I never laughed at the bar when I was drinking. So I got to make amends to my coach, and he just said, I showed him my 1 year chip, and he said, I'm so proud of you. Just keep doing the things you're doing, and we're good. Thank you for taking the time to take a risk on me, for bringing me here. I know you could have kicked me out with this, and it was just a moment of humility, and the other thing, I'm a tennis coach now, and I get to work with kids, and so a lot of times I've worked, the last couple of years I've worked with kids just come in after school and get somewhere to go, and I get really upset. It's like teaching economics for kindergarten. It's not up my level, but I had what they taught me, And so 11 years ago, I was back from school. I was working at this club where I work now, and I did not have a proud moment. I lost my temper, and I took it out on my kid, and I said, "I'm gonna effing kill you if I had time." Yeah, that was, and so there was gonna be a lawsuit, and they let me go. I got fired after 2 weeks, and brought this up, and I knew the owner, and I kept trying to tell him, I'm sorry, not for the job back, but I was sorry, but I didn't know how to make proper amends. And I was working at this club in Charlotte, and at another club, and they got bought by a pickleball place, and that took my serenity. It's nothing in it, but it, as you know, I mean, I'm right. Just a sport that's been around since like the hundreds of years, and just gets taken away. So I'm not in that business. I don't make the decisions. The owner gets to make those decisions. I don't workers. And just put my head down and work. And so one of the coaches took a job at this other club, and at the club where I got fired. And so I go. So the owner, he's fine. He's fine with me. We've been together. We played doubles together. We took a trip up to Vegas together with another group, with a team, and I sat down, and he's like, "You have all the credentials for this job, and it's going to be working with high performance players." And he goes, "But I know we have history, and but every day I'm going to try to show you my amends to you. I'm going to change my behavior, and that I don't want to lose my temper in front of you." I said, "Something along with that." But I said that I was wrong. I was wrong. So to say that, and I still feel ashamed. I still feel ashamed. I mean, they're kids, and I shouldn't lose my crap over them. But I did that day, and I'm human, but it's still. And so he goes, "Okay, when do you want to come to work?" Right? And so I took one day to think about it, and every day is a time where I can make amends to those kids. It's not those direct kids, it's not the direct parents that I'm working with, but I can see the same. Maybe they're not alcoholics, they're not like the same insecurities, what their future looks like. I get to be a role model for these kids. The more I do AA, the better coach I become. The more I discover, uncover, discover, discard, I can be of service to them. And Chuck C, but I love the book. It says our job is to go out and love others. And I hope for them that they can come into tennis and be better, feeling better than when they came in. Because I don't know if their parents will with them. I don't know. And it's just amazing to see them grow. It's like the newcomer grow. It's amazing. And today I was talking to a kid, and he just feels like he hasn't progressed, and he, he's like, "I just don't believe in myself." And I thought, why don't you believe in God? And I learned that from AA, and everything I've learned in my life is because of AA. And I'm not that only child anymore. I have all of you guys, and I have all of you guys, and there goes. I have all of you guys, and that means the world to me. I was lonely. I didn't know where I was going to go, and this is the best place on earth for me. Thanks for sharing.